A new full-dive MMORPG has been released. For those who don't know, full-dive games just mean games that involve putting the player's whole consciousness into the system using most, if not all, senses. Do we have that in real life? No, not yet anyway. The game was called Iris Revolution Online, commonly known as IRO. Players can play the role-playing game while streaming their screen to the entire world. Most players begin at one of the starting areas. There were basically 3 initial places. When the game screen boots up, it welcomes the player to Iris Revolution Online. After loading for a few seconds, a world map is shown. Dividing the map are 3 areas: the Marsis Republic, the Wolst Kingdom, and the Grania Empire. Looking at the map, a boy softly exclaims to himself, "There was a small island far off the main lands and in the middle of the sea. On that island, peaceful waves crash on shore and the birds fly on clear skies." Someone shouts in joy. Looking at all the tall trees and life forms scattered about, the boy's eyes sparkled brightly to see that his start on an uninhabited island was a great success. The boy's name was Sho, a player who won the limited open lottery for IRO. He went through the whole map for hours, looking for a place to enjoy a slow life. Everywhere looked too busy and he didn't like it. Bringing your introvert self into the game sounds on point for a gamer, actually. Eventually, his eyes landed on the small island. After a strict selection process, he finally found a new land without a single person and where he could start a free and elegant life. Sho was impressed he found such a place. As he looks at the area, a band on his wrist lets out a soft chime, signaling a notification. He raises his arm and a game screen appears. Sho exclaims to see that he caught an unexpected lucky break. Written on the screen were skill points he received. He gained 10 points for his discovery of an uninhabited island, 10 points for first logging into the game, and another 10 points for being the first one to be in the island. Skill points were points needed to acquire skills, quite self-explanatory actually. It can also be used to increase stats. Even on an uninhabited island, there was a possibility of encountering enemy monsters. Sho wonders if his current equipment was okay. He goes quiet as he realizes that he had a beginner's dagger, beginner's boots, beginner's leather armor, and beginner's ring. He had no head armor nor arm armor. With horror, he realizes he was going to be hunted. You're on an island with no other humans, possibly filled with wildlife, and all you have is a dagger. You're genuinely cooked. With a sigh, Sho laughs to himself, saying that if he encountered something he couldn't beat, then he would have to run away for now. He would have to acquire the short sword and disassembly skills. Next, he needed materials for a hut too. His planning was interrupted by his own stomach grumbling, kinda odd that they could feel hunger in the game. Sho blushes, changing his priorities to looking for food. As he explores the island more, he eventually gathers papu fruit from the trees and acquires a throwing skill. Looking down at all the fruit in his arms, Sho figures he was probably going to end up living like a farmer. Something suddenly catches his attention and he looks up. In his surprise, he suddenly drops all the fruit in his arms. His eyes had spotted a rabbit. In the game, they were called bicobits, which were low-level rabbit monsters. But they look like any other rabbit, really. A player could also use them for their meat. Sho slowly comes closer to it, careful not to chase it away. He's been practicing his throwing skill a lot with the papu fruit earlier, so he was expecting some level of mastery. He starts throwing little stones at the small creature, however they all miss. The bicobit doesn't run away and merely frowns at the stray stones thrown its way in confusion. Sho gets tired after a bit, realizing that it was harder than he thought. Pushing himself to concentrate more, he steadies his throwing hand once more. Finally, his stone hits the bicobit square in the forehead and knocks it out cold. Bro just gave a tiny bunny the Goliath treatment. Sho exclaims in joy that he was able to hit it. Just as he does so, he gets a notification that his character level had also gone up, and he was now at level 2. Since he had leveled up, he was able to earn 5 points to put into his skills. He places 1 point each on dexterity, strength, intelligence, agility, and vitality. He leaves out luck, thinking that he didn't need to. Eventually, the day is about to end. Sitting by a campfire, Sho happily wonders to himself if the bicobit was cooked thoroughly enough. Rest in peace, little bicobit. Just got coated into existence, and now you're getting literally fried in an open fire. As Sho pulled the skewer free from the fire, he was thinking how, although he caught it, he still had to wonder how to cook it. He had earned a skill point for making a skewer using the woodworking skill to process a tree branch, got another point for building a hearth using the masonry skill to stack stones, and 1 more point when he used elemental magic to cast an ignition spell for fire. He smiles in satisfaction of his true survival experience. Brother is learning the ways of cottagecore living. Taking a bite of his skewer, however, he figures that the taste was still lacking and he needed seasoning after all. Food should be manageable if he kept going like how he already was. As he ate, he started trying to figure out where to set up his base. He opens his game screen once more and wonders if he'd be able to build a log house with a combination of woodworking and carpentry. However, to do that, he'd need logs, and to get logs, he needed the logging skill and an axe. He thinks about it for a while more before eventually getting up and stretching. For now, Sho decides on gathering driftwood and making a simple tent. His thoughts are disrupted by another notification chime. The notification says that a player named Mion had started watching his stream. Pretty cool that any player can automatically set up to stream their content the moment they have an account. Sho is surprised to see that his account was set to stream. The viewer Mion greets him in the comments, telling him that they were a first-time visitor to his stream. Sho awkwardly greets them back. He was careless. He didn't think anyone would come and visit him. Going to the streaming settings, he realizes that it was possible that they were on by default. Mion asks if Sho was on IRO, to which he confirms. However, Mion notices that somehow the atmosphere where he was feels rather different. Sho explains that his island was quite far from where other streams took place. He tells them that he was actually planning to end his playthrough for the day. Hearing this, Mion praises him for his good work and tells him that they'll come back next time. And with that, Mion leaves Sho alone again. Sho breathes a sigh of relief. Since it was almost midnight, it was time for him to log out. Remembering that Mion promised to come back again, Sho smiles softly. Tomorrow, he'll make a tent and explore the island after. He switches the game off and Sho removes his gaming console headgear. He sets the console over the computer monitor. On the monitor screen, it says that for today's streaming session, he had one visit from Mion. The next day, Sho arrives at school. Naoto Kashiwabara was Sho's classmate sitting behind him. Naoto, who was nicknamed Nut and who we'll call Nut from now on as well, turns to Sho excitedly and asks if he already started with character creation the day before. Sho tells him that he has already logged in. Nut laughs that Sho had spent another late night playing. Nut asks for Sho's character name and he jokes that he was called Yuta. Sho laughs at his confusion before saying that it's always been the same. Nut asks what starting point he chose from the three nations and Sho stutters. Nut exclaims in disbelief that the world announcement the players heard about discovering an uninhabited island was about Sho. Nut starts to wonder if he should recreate his character and restart too. Meanwhile, Sho feels slightly awkward that his discovery of his island was announced to the other players. Their conversation is cut short when someone calls out to Sho. He turns to find the class representative. She asks him if he was on day duty and if he's already submitted the class report. Sho stands up in a panic, apologizing for forgetting. He goes up to the front of the class saying that he might have left the report notebook on the teacher's desk. However, as he holds out a hand and rummages through the desk's cubby, he's surprised to find that the report notebook was missing. The class rep suggests that maybe someone already submitted it, particularly someone named Izumo. She says that Izumo was also on day duty with him. Although Sho awkwardly remembers that he hasn't talked to her much, he decides that he should still approach her to apologize. Later on, a girl is about to leave Class 1B when Sho runs up to her and calls out her name. Izumo turns around to find Sho breathing heavily. Clapping his hands together, he apologizes and thanks her for submitting the report notebook. He adds that he would do the report for second period. Sho says that they could take turns doing it. He only looks up at her properly when he hears stuttering. With a blushing face, Izumo lets out a soft yes before quickly turning back around and rushing out of the classroom without another word. She's so cute. The class rep suddenly comes up behind Sho and asks where Izumo went. Sho explains what just happened and asks if something had happened with her. However, the class rep just tells him that she was a bit worried that Izumo still hadn't adjusted to the class. Sho suggests for her to try talking to Izumo, but the class rep says that although she wants to, they never seem to get the chance. Not only that, but whenever she tries to talk to Izumo, she quickly disappears. After thinking about the situation for a while, the only thing Sho says is that the class rep would probably get to talk to her eventually. Thanks for the thoughtful idea, Sho. The class rep comments that he was so optimistic. Sho spends the night playing IRO once more, exploring more of his island. The next morning, Sho ends up on the train to school. The train is packed with people, some watching gaming videos of a virtual idol playing IRO. Sho yawns sleepily. He frowns to himself as he thinks that he's been playing IRO too much. As he's deciding to start going to bed earlier, he takes notice of the two female students next to him whispering to one another, and he finally looks up. The students were concerned as they looked at another female student standing by the doors of the train cart. Behind her, a large man was breathing heavily. That situation does not look good. Sho is shocked to realize that the student by the doors was Izumo. He didn't know that they boarded the same train. Not only that, that old man behind her was standing way too close, making Sho wonder what he was doing to a high school girl. There's a couple of possible answers to that, but the right one is most likely one of the worst. Izumo suddenly flinches when she hears her name called out. She looks horrified for a moment before Sho slides up just behind her, blocking her from the old man. Sho happily greets her a good morning before raising his hand and reaching for the strap hangers, effectively cutting off Izumo from the old man's perspective. Nice save if I've ever seen one. They spend the rest of the train ride to school with Sho protecting Izumo from any more dangers. Eventually, they arrive at their stop and get off the train. Sho quickly turns to her and asks if she is okay. Izumo buries her face in her hands and admits that the old man was sniffing her. Sho shudders and comments that the man was a creep. I second that statement. Rubbing away the tears that gathered in her eyes, Izumo thanks him. Sho tells her that if it ever looked dangerous, she could just tell him and he would help her. Arriving at school, Nut greets Sho with an unpleasant look on his face. With a grave voice, he asks him what club he joined. Sho comments that his attitude was terrible and Nut ignores him, choosing to call him a traitor. Apparently, he saw him flirting with Izumo on their way to school. Sho tries to tell him that that wasn't what was happening, but Nut throws an arm around him and starts shaking him uncontrollably. He demands to know if Sho was planning to join the romance club or something similar. Sho argues back that there was no such club and he was planning on joining the computer club. I'd be pleasantly surprised if the romance club was an actual thing though. Their banter is cut short when the doors to the classroom slide open and their homeroom teacher comes in. With a happy clap of her hands, she greets everyone a good morning and announces the start of class. At the sight of her, Nut flinches back with a blush on his face. Their teacher announces that starting today was club recruitment week, so the students should visit all the clubs they were interested in. The deadline for choosing their clubs would be Friday after school. As the teacher ends their homeroom period, Sho lifts his head to ask Nut what he was thinking of joining. Nut says that he would join track and field and would occasionally skip the period. Later after school, just as he said he would, Sho heads over to the computer club's room. Standing outside the room, he thinks how it seemed smaller than what he initially thought. He wonders if there were any computers since he was hoping to play IRO if possible. A computer club without any computers would be super funny though. However, maybe he was dreaming too big. As he raises his hand to knock on the door, it's slammed open, making Sho flinch in shock. A female student asks him if he was a prospective member. Before Sho could even get a proper word in, the girl takes it as a confirmation and grabs onto his arm, dragging him inside. The girl greets him excitedly, welcoming him to the computer club. However, Sho is struck silent. Behind the girl and standing at the far back of the room was none other than Izumo. What a small world for these two. With a grand flourish, the girl still holding on to Sho asks him how he liked the computer club. They had a whole gaming and streaming setup, whoa, complete with lighting equipment to boot. Shyly raising her hand, Izumo greets Sho with a soft smile. Sho almost cried in relief to see there was someone else he knew in the club. Meanwhile, the girl from before comments that Sho and her were in the same class. Sho is horrified to realize that the girl found out because she had somehow acquired his student ID. The girl finally introduces herself as Suzune Katori, a second year and the club president. Sho nervously shakes her hand, however, he stutters out that he might not be able to join the club. Suzune asks him why, and Sho admits that the activity fees seem quite high. I honestly didn't know you had to pay to be in a club. Suzune reassures him that it wasn't a problem. She explains that the activity fees were covered by school funding and money earned through club activities. Sho is confused how they earned through the activities, and Suzune gives herself as an example. Admitting that she was active as the virtual idol Witchbell, Sho immediately exclaims in shock. Asking if she was the famous streamer Witchbell he was thinking of, Suzune laughs and says that just proved that he didn't need to worry about the costs. Witchbell was a virtual idol who rapidly gained fans over the past year. She mainly did gaming streams. Sho couldn't believe that such a famous person was so close. No wonder they had a whole gaming streamer set up in the school. With an almost threatening expression, Suzune makes him promise to keep her identity a secret. Now that Sho was in the club, Suzune tells him to take a seat and she would get them some tea. Sho and Izumo wait patiently at a sofa as Suzune returns and places 2 cans on the coffee table in front of them. Grabbing one of them, Sho comments that the beverage was an energy drink, not tea. True gamer fashion to serve an energy drink, in my opinion. Suzune laughs and tells him not to sweat the small stuff. Getting down to business, she asks if they both had Wear IDs. A Wear ID was an identification number for computers and head-mounted display users, basically the gaming console they use to play IRO. To Suzune's satisfaction, both Sho and Izumo confirm that they do. Sho watches in fascination as Izumo puts her headgear on, surprised to know that she had one. Suzune tells them that she would send them friend requests. Putting on their HMD, a gaming screen appears in front of them using Real View mode. Real View mode allowed the wearer to visually project a gaming screen in the real world. With the friend request screen in front of him, Sho comments how amazing it was to have Witchbell as a friend. After accepting her request, Suzune tells him to send a friend request to Izumo as well. Sho agrees, but beside him, Izumo seems to stop short, a complicated look on her face. Suzune asks if there was anything wrong and if she couldn't send the request. But Izumo snaps out of it and says everything was fine. Sho is confused by her reaction, wondering what was wrong. For him, the exchange seemed fine. However, he freezes as he looks back at the screen, the name in front of him more than familiar. Suzune suddenly calls out to the both of them asking if they are done, and Sho and Izumo both flinch in surprise. Sho shakily confirms that they were all good to go. Suzune is confused by their reactions but brushes it off quickly. With a smile, she announces that they were doing self-introductions. She adds that during club activities, they would all use their display names. Both Sho and Izumo stay quiet at the idea. Finally, Suzune tells Sho to go first. Sho introduces himself, adding that he loved playing games like IRO. Izumo goes up next, introducing herself as Izumo Mio with her display name as Mion. No wonder they both reacted like that. What were the odds of meeting each other? She adds that she liked watching IRO gaming streams and that she wasn't very good at talking. From here on out, let's call them by display names. Suzune will be called Witch Belle or Belle, and Izumo will be called Mion. Witch Belle is pleasantly surprised to find out that the both of them were interested in IRO. Since she played it too, she suggests that they focus on IRO for a while. Excitedly, she turns to Sho and asks him what nation he started at and what his build strategy was. Sho is struck silent for a moment before he explains his story about his island. Hearing his tale, Belle exclaims in disbelief to hear that the world announcement about an uninhabited island being discovered was about Sho. Suddenly, a woman with sparkling eyes slides up beside Belle, extremely excited to hear of the really rare approach to the game. Belle exclaims in surprise at the sudden appearance of their homeroom teacher named Kumano. Belle asks her not to startle them like that, but Kumano only laughs and says that she was just excited about the new club members. Sho is surprised to find their homeroom teacher there. Clearing her throat to pick herself back up, Belle says that since their teacher had joined them, they should proceed with the explanation. She tells them that they should enter virtual view while they are at it. Belle asks Sho to lock the clubroom door. After that, they would switch the screen from the real view to virtual view. Belle advises them to close their eyes to avoid motion sickness. Virtual view mode connected all the 5 senses to the HMD, immersing the entire consciousness in the virtual world. Sho closes his eyes and in a few moments he finds himself in a different place. He looks around to find that everyone had turned into their avatars. Before him, Suzune was in the Witch Belle attire he knew. Witch Belle was glad to see that everyone had made it in successfully. However, kneeling beside her and clutching her head was the homeroom teacher. In the game, her name was Yata. Yata mumbles that she still wasn't used to entering virtual view. Sho wonders how she got such a realistic suit that's similar to the one she had in real life. Snapping her fingers, a large virtual screen appears beside Witch Belle and she welcomes them again to the computer club. Now this is a computer club I would love to join. She tells them that she was going to show them what their club activities have been like until now. On the screen, Witch Belle suddenly appears as she does her intro. It was one of Witch Belle's super popular livestream videos. As he watches the video, Sho is amazed to see that the concurrent viewers had exceeded 10,000 already. Even when Belle only defeated mini-bosses, donations and messages from the viewers came pouring in for support. Mion is just as amazed at all the fans Witch Belle had. Mion asks her if their club activity was to help her work. Belle thinks about it for a while before saying that the idea was fine, but she wasn't going to force them. She explains that it was originally a desperate measure to deal with the shabby equipment they had in the club. Yata adds that they were on the verge of being shut down due to lack of club funds, but Belle had turned things around for them. She earned club funds as a virtual idol, and eventually they ended up earning too much. Sho is amazed at how legendary of a person she was. With that, Yata says that help wasn't really needed. She suggests that if he wasn't interested in that, he could try other virtual idol activities. Mion cuts in a panic, saying that she wasn't really good at games. Belle remembers that Mion had mentioned that she preferred just watching streams, so they couldn't really force her. Instead, Belle turns to Sho and says that he should be the one to play instead. Sho exclaims in shock at the idea that he would become an idol, imagining himself acting cute in front of a camera. Belle reassures him that he would just do regular streaming. Sho looks bashful for assuming, but also relieved funny that he immediately imagined himself like that. Belle asks Sho if he also streamed his gaming sessions and asks to see his archives. Sho admits that he does, but his eyes wander to Mion beside him. Understanding that he was asking for permission, Mion happily smiles and gives her approval. With that, Sho summons another game screen for Belle and Yata. As they watch, Belle comments that just as Sho had said, he really did do everything alone on an uninhabited island. Yata is delighted to know that it was possible to play IRO like that. She asks if that was like a challenge run playstyle, and Belle answers that it wasn't quite like that. Suddenly, Belle notices a name pop up on screen and recognizes it. Seeing Belle's confusion, Mion holds up her hand and confirms that it was her, saying that she happened to find the stream. Belle is amazed that Sho's first viewer happened to be a classmate. Calling it an incredible coincidence, Belle tells Sho that at his rate he couldn't play with them even if he wanted to. Sho laughs bashfully. Yada lightly frowns, saying their situation was rather troublesome. Sho asks if there was a problem. Yada admits that they had too many achievements from last year and she wanted him and Mion to do something substantial as well. Damn, what a way to put the pressure on them. Sho understands where the problem lies. While his playstyle was indeed unusual, the actual tasks he did were quite mundane. All he did was comment on grass collecting and subdue some of the monsters. Suddenly, a stroke of brilliance comes to Yada, and with a start she suggests that Mion provide commentary on Sho's uninhabited island stream. Bell likes the sound of the idea, asking for Sho and Mion's input. Sho was fine with it, but he also remembers that Mion had said that she wasn't that good at speaking. Mion admits that she was a bit nervous, however she remembers Sho protecting her on the train and his promise of doing his best to help her. So with a soft smile she tells them that she wanted to try doing her best together. Sho blushes at her words, and with that they began their two-person streaming activity. Meanwhile, somewhere in the virtual world of IRO, growling and barking could be heard as a creature backs away. A large bear-like monster stood threateningly before a smaller canine creature. Back in the uninhabited island, a figure is hidden under a small tent camouflaged by leaves. A voice calls out to the figure over and over. Finally, Sho slowly opens his eyes to the sound of his name. Crawling out of the tent, Sho recognizes the voice as Witch Bell. Bell asks him if he was able to get into IRO successfully. When Sho confirms that he had, Bell gives Mion the approval to jump into Sho's stream and start viewing. They were going to begin with streaming practice. From Bell and Yada's perspective, they watch as Mion had set up her own stream showcasing Sho's live video. Sho asks Bell if she and Yada planned on coming into the stream. Bell tells him that since it was Mion's practice livestream, they would watch from the outside. She suddenly reminds Sho that in an actual stream, comments would be directed at Mion, so Sho needed to be careful not to say anything that might attract hate towards her. Imagining the scary look on Bell's face, Sho promises to do so before asking her to stop putting weird pressure on him since he was just a newbie. Yada suggests that they could just post an edited video of the stream. The announcement about discovering an uninhabited island was still a mystery, so a video with explanatory captions about starting on that island would surely be in demand. Sho purses his lips as he thinks about how he didn't have any editing skills. Suddenly, Mion calls out to him in a rush. Mion tells him to leave the editing to her. Sho thanks her for the support. Mion asks him what they were going to do that day. Checking his game screen for his goals for the day, Sho tells her that he was planning on gathering materials for the woodworking skill and heading east along the coast. Belle suddenly asks that since he was going for the woodworking skill to make a tent, she wonders if there was a sleep logout function in the game. Sho confirms that it was possible because when he woke up back in the game he was fully recovered. Sleep logout was the term for recovering health points in the morning when logging out of the game via sleeping. Normal players paid money to stay at inns because if they tried logging out while outside, they could most likely get robbed. Damn, even in a video game the public safety system was poor. Bell explains that people from the Empire tended to become very rich easily. It was one way to prevent inflation. Mion asks if he had any money and Sho tells them that he was penniless. Bell is surprised to hear this information since she had received 30,000 iris at the start of the game. Sho reasons that maybe since he received the uninhabited island, he didn't have the chance to receive any money. However, he was able to receive a lot of skill points and allocated them to skills. Bell notes that he still had 31 skill points left, and Sho says that he was going to be using them a lot from then on. He wasn't even sure if all of it would be enough. Yada asks if there were any skills he wanted, and Sho thinks of the fishing skill. He says that he thinks he'd be able to manage with worms as bait, making one of the girls comment that his idea was something a boy would come up with. Sho counters that his dad and grandfather had taught him a long time ago. Sho cuts the conversation short as he notices that they were about to reach the cliff. In front of Sho was the wide ocean, sparkling from the sun of a clear sky. Sho and the others watching his stream marvel at the sight. Belle praises him for finding a really amazing island. She asks him if he planned on starting on an uninhabited island from the very beginning. Sho admits that he thought it would be nice if he could. Before he knew it, he had already spent 4 to 5 hours searching for one. Belle goes awkwardly quiet and Sho realizes too late that she might have been put off by his words. Suddenly, Sho flinches and he whips his head around in a panic, looking around the forest. From their video call, someone asks if he had seen something. Sho turns on his presence detection skill. Sho says that he heard a sound. He decides on chasing after it for a bit. As he gets closer, he turns on his presence concealment skill as well. He crouches behind some bushes as he detects the sound coming closer from around the area. He peeks through the bush leaves. Sho finds a goblin. Mion comments that it was starting to feel like an actual role-playing game and Sho agrees. He frowns, wondering if that was all there was to it, so he decides on following its trail for a bit more. As the goblin walks through the forest, Sho follows at a safe distance. Finally, he stops as the goblin reaches its destination. As he thought, there wasn't only one. A whole horde of them had gathered. There were around 20 of them. Mion asks if he was going to defeat them, sis. His only way of protecting himself at the moment is throwing rocks at things and possibly the beginner dagger he has yet to use. Sho tells Mion that it seemed impossible to defeat all of them solo, so he was thinking of heading back. However, he does agree that he needed to defeat them eventually. He goes back to his small tent. Mion praises him for his wise decision and Sho laughs awkwardly, admitting that he was just nervous. Mion suddenly asks him why he wanted to play solo so badly. He admits that he just wanted to relax by himself. Somehow, when other people were around, he ended up being too considerate to them. Nervously, Mion asks him if her commentary was bothering him and Sho reassures her in a frenzy that it wasn't. With a happy smile, he says that although he intended to enjoy the game solo, he found talking to Mion fun. His words make Mion blush and smile softly to herself, glad to know he thought so. Hearing their conversation, Belle and Yada laugh amongst themselves with knowing smiles, much to Sho's confusion. Back in the computer club, their rehearsal ends and Sho takes off his HMD with a content sigh. Belle welcomes him back to the real world and tells them that since club activities ended at 6 p.m., it was about time for them to head home. Yada pops up behind Mion and tells them that they should all tidy up quickly and head home together. The rest agree. As they walk down the school hallway, Sho asks Belle how often she usually streamed. Belle thinks about it and says that until IRO started, she usually streamed twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for about an hour from 8 p.m. Sho asks if her schedule now was different, and Belle says that since IRO was famous at the moment, she wanted to do it all week. But before she could say more, a hand roughly grabs her shoulder, making her flinch. Yada creeps up behind her with a terrifying expression and reminds her that she was only allowed to stream 3 times a week. She shouldn't set a bad example for the new students. Sho and Mion are struck silent by fear, as Yada tells them to be careful as well. Both of them note not to ever anger their teacher. In a panic, Belle bids them goodbye, saying that she had to prepare for her stream, so she was going ahead home first. Sho awkwardly thanked her for her good work today. Yada watches Belle go with a worried expression, but she turns to Sho and Mion with a smile and reminds them that those under 18 could only be on live broadcasts until 10 p.m., and tells them not to forget that. I wonder how they keep track of the players' ages when it's easy to fake your birthday online. Yada bids them farewell, saying that she was heading back to the staff room and telling them to be careful on their way home. Sho arrives back at his house. As he takes off his shoes by the doorway and announces his arrival, his younger sister crashes into him as she gives him a hug. The girl's name was Mickey, and when she pulls away, Sho comments that she was rather lively today, and Mickey answers positively. Sho asks if she was done with her exam studies, and Mickey happily says that she's completed them. He asks what she wanted for dinner, and she requests curry, adding that she's already purchased the ingredients. Sho asks her to clean the bath while he's cooking, and Mickey runs off to do her chores. When she's out of the room, Sho lets out a sigh of relief. Sho was currently living alone with his younger sister. It wasn't really a complicated family situation, but their parents had gone on a long business trip together, and that was that. Mickey took after their mother in looks and had a top-level intellect nationwide, but for some reason, she's gotten into the habit of speaking like a chunibyu, which is a Japanese term for people who have delusions of grandeur. I'm guessing she acts more like royalty in this case. As Sho takes a sip of the curry he was making, he wonders to himself if it was the price of successful education. Suddenly, Mickey pokes her head into the room and asks her dear brother if he had started playing IRO. Sho flinches in shock with how fast she had done her task. He admits that he has. Mickey's eyes are glittering as she looks to him hopefully. Sho says that she was a student preparing for her exams, and Mickey pushes that she wanted to play as well. Mickey proudly says that she was selected for the limited open beta, and there was no way she was passing up such a fortunate opportunity. The brother won an island all to himself, and the sister was chosen for the limited open beta. The family is just full of luck. Sho figured that she would be fine even if she studied a bit less. Mickey admits that she intended to go to the same high school as him, much to Sho's confusion. He tells her that she could afford to aim higher and asks if their father had said it was okay. Mickey says that she had persuaded him. Sho gives in and says that if she finds his character, then he would play with her, much to Mickey's excitement. Which is funny to say because he just stays in his island where I'm pretty sure no one else has access to LOL. Mickey laughs in content that she got his permission, but Sho just tells her to sit quietly as they had dinner. Sho logs back into the game and crawls out of his small tent. Even though they already did club activities after watching Witchbell's stream, he couldn't help but want to play. He laughs, resigned at the idea that he was going to be sleep deprived again. He suddenly remembers to set his settings where only Mion could view his stream. Almost instantly, Mion visits his world. Sho smiles in delight at how fast she had arrived. The two of them share greetings, and Mion asks him what his plans were for the day. Sho tells her that he planned on exploring the western area. Mion tells him to be careful and have a good time. With that, Sho was off for another adventure. He walks deeper into the forest and Sho comments that the current area seemed to have a lot of cedar and pine trees. Mion observes that the types of trees differed depending on the location. Sho says that it would be useful for building the log cabin. His thoughts are disrupted when his presence detection skill turns on. Mion notices his sudden change in mood and asks him if there was something wrong, but Sho stays quiet. He turns on presence concealment. He wonders what presence he was sensing, thinking it might be more of the goblins from the settlement before. He frowns and thinks that he might be able to fight a single goblin solo. Although he was a bit nervous, he pushed himself to move forward. What greets him is a pitiful canine-like monster trembling in fear. Both Sho and Mion stop short, not quite expecting to find it. Kneeling down closer to see it, Sho wonders if the small creature was a puppy. Sho asks himself what the puppy was doing in a place like that. But suddenly Mion calls out to him. She notices that the small creature was injured, a cut on one of its paws. Sho wonders if he could heal it using a skill. He summons his game screen and looks through the skill tree. Mion asks if there was something like a first aid skill. Sho says that there was and decides to also get medicine preparation and gathering. However, just as he selects them, the game tells him that he had insufficient tools. Mion says that it looked like they needed bandages and such, but Sho didn't have any of them. The puppy whines in pain. Sho gets up and looks around, hoping to find a possible substitute. His eyes land on small growing plants. He pulls on a plant stalk, saying that it would do. The plant was called Sasavechi. Sho kneels back down to the puppy and coos to it, telling it to stay still as he tended to its wound. After he is finished, the game informs him that his first aid was a great success. The puppy happily barks at him, thankful. Sho smiles as well, playing with it and glad that it was feeling better. As he talks to it more and calls it cute, Mion suddenly yells for him to look behind him. Sho turns around. A large bear looms over him. The game tells him it was an armor bear, an omnivorous bear monster. It was known for its extremely high strength and was far beyond the capabilities of an average adventurer. The game was basically telling him that he was going down no matter what. Sho felt a chill run down his spine, freezing in horror at the sight of the bear. He immediately picks up the puppy and books it, the bear hot on their heels. Mion tells him to run away, and Sho screams that she didn't have to tell him twice. Eventually, they safely returned home to Sho's base. I'm rather surprised he managed to outrun a bear. Mion worriedly asks Sho if he was alright. Sho is kneeling on the ground, breathing heavily. He says that he thought he was going to die. Mion is glad that he managed to escape. Beside him, the puppy whines at him, trying to catch his attention. Mion notices that he brought the puppy with him, and Sho says that he couldn't just leave it there. He wonders if it was hungry, and he looks through his items for something to eat. Taking out a wooden plate, Sho decides that it needs water first and hopes that it would be open to drinking. Sho waits patiently as the puppy sniffs the plate curiously. He smiles as it starts to lap at the water. Mion is glad it was drinking, and so is Sho. He's amazed that it felt like he was keeping a pet. He offers it a piece of meat. However, as the puppy tries to bite at the meal, Mion suggests for him to cut it first because it was having a hard time eating. Sho opens his game screen again and acquires the cooking skill to be able to cut it into smaller pieces. Now more bite-sized, he holds his hand out to the puppy again with the cut meat. The puppy reaches into his open palm and happily starts munching. As they watch it eat, Mion coos at how cute it was, and Sho agrees, saying that little ones were especially adorable. Mion asks him if he liked puppies, and Sho excitedly answers that he loved them, but he wasn't able to keep one in real life even though he always wanted one. The puppy suddenly barks at him. Taking it into his arms, Sho asks it happily if it was done eating already. As Sho pets the puppy, Mion calls out to him and points out that the puppy had a mark above its head. Looking at it closely, Sho is confused, but Mion suggests that maybe it was a mark that they have become really close. Mion asks him if he could obtain the taming skill, and Sho explodes in excitement to hear that there was such a thing. He quickly asks her how many skill points were needed to acquire it. Mion tells him that it seemed to need 9 skill points. Dejected, Sho says that other skills only needed 1 point. He thinks it was quite costly, however, as his eyes land on the puppy looking up at him with glittering eyes. Sho pulls it close to him and says that he couldn't afford not to take it. There's no way you can say no to that cute little face. Look at it, it can do no wrong. Kneeling down, he asks the puppy if it would like to be his partner. The puppy happily barks, its tail wagging from side to side, and immediately, Sho gets a notification that his taming was successful. Suddenly, the game tells him to decide on a name for the puppy. Sho is shocked that he had to decide on the spot. Mion hesitantly suggests that she had an idea for one, and she offers the name Rupi. Immediately, Sho lights up at the name, saying it was a nice and cute name for the dog. The game suddenly notifies him that he received an achievement called Pioneer of Taming, awarding him with 10 skill points. Sho is surprised to hear that he was the first one to tame a creature. Mion praises him for racking up another achievement. Sho bashfully laughs and says that things were just going smoothly. He says that it was all thanks to Rupi and he pets the puppy's head, much to its satisfaction. Rupi barks happily and Sho says that it was so cute that he could pet it forever. Calling out the game screen once more, Sho says that since he's gotten his dose of healing, then he should start doing some work. Mion asks what he was planning on and he answers that he planned on making traps around the area. Even if he did level up, it would still be dangerous if he was surrounded. It was preparation to counter the goblins. Looking at the game screen once more, it looked like there were 3 types of trap skills: trap creation, trap setting, and trap detection. Mion comments that taking all 3 of them would consume quite a lot of skill points. Sho thinks hard about it, agreeing with Mion but also pointing out that he just earned 10 skill points from his latest achievement. Finally, he decides to take all 3. Immediately, he wants to check out how they worked. In the southeast dense forest area of the uninhabited island, Rupi lunges for a bicobit. The moment he's in distance, he bites at its face and the bicobit lets out a shriek as it goes down. Rupi happily trots back to Sho with a content bark. Sho praises it for a good job, surprised that it could hunt as well. He pats its head as a treat. Sho gets a notification that he obtained the hide of a bicobit. Mion tells him that they could make leather straps using the hide. Sho says that he could use it for traps as well. However, for straps, they could also use specific plants. Sho takes a vine in his hand and says that he thinks a snare trap would be the easiest to make, specifically the one that catches and lifts its prey by the leg. If he gathered sturdy vines and thick branches, he'll be able to make it. As he's kneeling down to collect the necessary gear, the game informs him that the trap setting skill was available, specifically the snare trap. Sho tells Mion that he'll try setting up the trap on the tree near him. As he's setting up, Rupi comes up to him, wagging its tail and letting out a curious bark. Sho makes sure to tell it not to go near that specific tree and Rupi lets out a bark, a response that said it understood. A little later, Sho ties the final knot and gets up with a content sigh. It looked like it was set up nicely. Mion asks if it was for capturing monsters like bicobits, and Sho tells her it's possible it could capture other things too. Sho says that he would check again the next time he logged in. Next, Sho says that he wanted to make a flying disc for Rupi. Hearing his words, Rupi jumps into Sho's arms. It excitedly paws at his face, and Mion comments how happy it looked. Sho laughs, wondering if Rupi really did understand what he said. Mion suddenly says that she would love to keep watching, but she needed to log out for the day. Sho agrees that they should probably get some sleep, and Mion tells him that wasn't what all she planned on doing. When Sho asks what else she had to do, Mion says that during the streaming practice she was thinking of making a prologue video with the footage. Dang, they have a teaser trailer. Or I suppose a debut announcement for a new streamer. Mion asks what Sho thought about it, and Sho excitedly says that it was an awesome idea, adding that he was already looking forward to it. Mion laughs and promises to do her best. The next day at the computer club room, Belle, Mion, and Sho are seated in front of a screen as it plays Mion's intro video. They have a mix of reactions as Mion's voice welcomes them to the miracle of IRO, and how they've discovered the only player to set foot on the uncharted island. Completely amazed by the editing, Sho turns to Mion. He couldn't believe she edited it to that level in just one night. The video carries on, Mion's voice saying that they were diving into the reality of the solo player she discovered. With the video ending, she invites viewers to subscribe to her channel for the next video. Sho finally understood why she was so confident about offering her editing services. When the video ends, Mion nervously asks them what they thought. Suddenly, Belle grabs her by the shoulders and says that it was amazing. It was surely going to be popular. Belle turns to Sho and asks for his opinion. Sho excitedly says that it was even better than expected and interesting all the way through. Digesting his words, Mion smiles at him, softly glad that the video was well received. Sho freezes, blushing at her reaction. Belle turns to Yada and asks for her ideas as well, and Yada gathers her thoughts. Yada tells them that it might be a bit too long for a first video. She says that there was a lot of information, so they might run out of content for future videos if they kept it up. Sho agrees with her idea since they couldn't guarantee that they'd find new things frequently. Mion adds that it was better to reveal things bit by bit. Yada suggests that they should keep it in a more relaxed way. If they kept the same pace as Sho's slow life, it would be easier for both the viewers and creators. Mion takes down notes as Yada speaks. Sho watches Mion and thinks that she was the type to listen to harsh opinions without arguing. He thought she might object since she put so much effort into it. However, as he continues to watch her reactions, he notices that she looked a bit down after all. Yada continues that it was a special situation, so they needed to be careful about envy and jealousy. She suggests that they should also include some tough scenes too. Hearing her words, Sho thinks about people who would be jealous and realizes lightheartedly that there might be people like Nut. Trashing your friend in that way is peak friend behavior. It means you know them well enough. For now, Yada says that they should edit it to be a bit shorter so they could post it by the end of the day. Yata calls Mion over to watch the video with her, and Mion quickly goes to her. As Mion and Yata go over the video one more time, Sho smiles as he realizes that he somehow found himself surrounded by so many talented people. He thought he'd gradually increase his fans like that and start live streaming once he got used to things, or so he thought at that point, but eventually, the teaser video is released to the public. Players all over the game excitedly talk about it. One player asks another if they saw the video about the uninhabited island, surprised to learn that that was what the world announcement they heard about. Some players commented that Mion's voice was rather cute. More players talk about how they've never tried using production skills before. They thought Sho's experiences looked rather tough as he explored the island. Hoping that the videos were uploaded every other week, more players subscribed to Mion's channel. Soon enough, Mion had 187 subscribers. The next day, Sho and Mion are about to enter their classmate when Nut lunges for Sho and throws an arm around him. He greets him excitedly and tells him that he watched his video. Sho comments that Nut was so energetic this early in the morning, and Nut smiles at him smugly. Sho asks if he really did watch the intro video, and Nut says of course he did since it was all over social media. Sho is confused, but at Nut's words, Mion immediately takes out her phone to check. Her expression looks alarmed as she frantically whispers to Sho that the video had gotten really popular. Although the video had only been out for 13 hours, the video had received 578 comments, and Mion's channel currently sat at 43,741 followers. Sho couldn't believe it either, and he asks to see her phone. He's amazed to see that it was true. As Sho and Mion busy themselves, Nut stares hard at Mion. Finally, he whispers to Sho and asks him if Mion was the commentator. Sho confirms it and asks him to keep it a secret. Nut agrees, and Mion remains unaware of their conversation. Nut pokes at Sho's cheek, and in exchange for keeping his secrets, he wanted to know some useful tips. Sho says that he wondered if he had any to share, but since IRO was part of their club activities anyway, he would ask around anyway. Nut is pleased by his answer. Meanwhile, Mion watches their interaction for a while before turning around. Sho notices her odd reaction and asks if there was something wrong. Mion comments that they seemed rather close, and Sho agrees since they were friends. Mion walks ahead, not turning around to face him, as she reminds him that Belle had told them to come right after school. Sho watches her go, wondering if she was angry over something. Eventually, Sho and Mion head on over to the computer club. Immediately, Belle meets them by the hallway and ecstatically announces that something amazing had happened. Sho flinches from shock. He asks her not to surprise them, but Belle just asks if they've seen it. Sho tells her that he didn't and that he just confirmed that it was getting a bit popular. He worriedly asks if it was because of a controversy, and Belle reassures him that they were genuinely gaining fans. Showing him her phone, Belle tells him that it was even trending on Suzutter, which is most likely their version of Twitter. Mion suddenly cuts in, asking Sho if he could give her his Suzutter account. Sho tells them he didn't use the app, much to Belle and Mion's shock, saying that it was rare for someone not to use it. Sho explains that it was because he didn't want to run into any spoilers. Belle wonders if managing an official account would be tough, and Sho offers that Mion might be better suited for it. Mion tells them that she's only ever used a private account. Belle says that neither of them seemed suited for public relations. They see Yata approaching them, and Belle greets her on her perfect timing. Yata asks them why they were all chatting at the entrance, and she urges them to come inside to sit down and talk. Entering the computer club room, Yata asks again what they were talking about, and Belle tells her that they were discussing social media. She asks Yata if she knew about yesterday's video views, and Yata says yes. Belle suggests that now might be the best time to create an account since it's gone viral. Yata thinks about it for a while before saying that she thought it was fine not to use social media for the moment. Belle asks if it was because Yata thought they shouldn't increase their visibility all at once, and Yata agrees. She explains that the video content was mainly slow-paced, but Suzutter, with its rapid information updates, wasn't suitable for attracting casual fans. Belle is amazed to hear her analysis. Belle turns to the computer screen and says that at the rate they were going, they should be able to monetize soon enough. It was great news, but the tax situation could get complicated. Belle says that she would leave the use of the revenue to Yata, but they donated $5 million to the school last year. Damn, they're effectively stockholders for the school at that point. Thanks to their donation, they were able to upgrade their equipment. Sho exclaims to hear they earned $5 million, suggesting what would happen if they streamed every day. Yata reminds them that a student's primary duty was studying. Belle mutters to herself that she would rather stream than study. I mean, when you're earning that good, you could be set for life. Yata hears her and smiles at her threateningly, asking Belle to repeat what she just said. Refusing to look at her, Belle says that she didn't say anything. Mion cuts into the conversation and says that she had a request for Belle. Belle immediately tells her to ask her anything. Her desperation and relief is clear to Sho and Mion, but they don't say it out loud. Holding out a laptop, Mion says that she wanted her to check out their next video. Belle is surprised to hear that it was already done. She tells them that they could play IRO while she watches the video. Sho cuts in on their conversation and asks if it was okay for him to share his information about the skills he learned on the island to his friends. Belle says he was free to do as he liked, but Sho asks if it was really okay. He asks if the closed beta testers wouldn't get angry. Belle reassures him that even if they did get upset, they couldn't come to the uninhabited island in the first place, so it was fine. Belle adds that she shares some of the information she gathered in her videos too. Sho understands that by doing so, they'll be able to attract fans looking for walkthroughs too. Belle is glad that he got the point and reassures him again that it was fine to talk to his friends, but reminds him to make sure that they understood that as well. She urges them to start playing if they don't have any other questions, and Sho quickly puts on his HMD since students had limited time to play. He quickly logs in. Back in IRO, Sho leaves his small tent with a relieved sigh. He turns to his game screen and waits for Mion to log in. Soon enough, he's notified that he had one viewer. Mion greets him and Sho returns her greeting. But as he does so, Mion frowns. Mion points out that he called Nut without using any honorifics. She says that it was unfair and asks him to do the same for her. Sho, although rather shy, agrees to her request anyway, much to her delight. Sho wonders to himself why she suddenly requested something like that. He thinks for a moment that calling a girl without using honorifics was rather embarrassing, but as he's lost in his thoughts, something comes closer to him, its mouth ready to attack. Sho screams in pain. Mion asks in a panic if he was okay as Sho lay on the ground clutching his ankles. He reassures her he was fine, but he wonders what happened to him. A small happy bark greets him and Sho realizes it was Rupi. Picking him up into his arms, Sho says that he was glad that Rupi was doing well since he was a bit worried. Mion is confused by his concern and Sho explains that since he doesn't know what happens once he's logged out, he wondered if Rupi had somehow gotten attacked by enemies. Mion suggests that maybe if they made Rupi stronger, Sho would feel more at ease. Sho's eyes immediately brighten, calling Mion a genius and calling over Rupi to start his training. A little later, Sho spends his time guiding Rupi as he attacked more bikobbits. These rabbits are the true victims in this whole story. After hunting monsters for about an hour, Sho gets a notification that his character level had increased, much to his surprise. Mion congratulates him. Still at level 3, Sho comments that his progress might be a bit slow, especially considering which Belle was already at level 7. Mion reminds him that Belle was too exceptional to compare himself to, and Sho agrees. Opening his game screen, Sho decides to put all his skill points into his stats again this time. Mion asks him if he still had some points left for skill acquisition, and Sho reassures her that thanks to the achievements he's received, he had quite a bit to spare. Mion asks him if he was done for the day, and Sho says that he wasn't done quite yet because there was still something he needed to check on. Mion lights up, already understanding what he was talking about. They head to the trap setting location. A creature trapped is caught on the vines of the trap, shrieking to be released. It was a Sauron lizard, a lizard monster nearly a meter long with paralyzing venom in its fangs. Sho is ecstatic that he had successfully caught something. Planning to dissect the monster, he reaches out to grab the Sauron lizard. However, as his hands come closer, the lizard snaps at his fingers. Sho moves away, afraid of how vicious it was. He looks down to see Rupi growling fiercely at the lizard. He tells Rupi to go hunt somewhere else because he'll be fine. Sho delivers a harsh punch over the lizard's head, effectively knocking it out. Sho picks the lizard up into his arms, finally able to dissect it. As he starts working on it, he gets notifications of his character level and taming skills increasing. Sho is amazed that they all came at once. Mion warns him to check what he obtained first. Sho agrees since even the fangs alone were dangerous. First up was the meat. The Sauron lizard meat was muscular and hard to eat, so the player had to tenderize it with enzymes. Mion comments that cooking seemed challenging. Next up, Sho picks up a fang. According to the game, the Sauron lizard venom gland was filled with paralyzing venom. It could be used for medicine preparation, particularly an ingredient for paralyzed potion. Curiously looking at the fang, Sho thinks how it could be useful. Deciding to head back, Sho calls out to Rupi. Rupi turns back to him with a bright expression and a happy bark. Sho and Mion smile as Rupi runs up to them. Mion says that Rupi was strong and smart. Sho agrees and wonders out loud if it was thanks to the taming skill that he can understand what he said. Sho tells Rupi that it could go hunting if it was hungry, but warns it not to go too deep into the forest. Rupi barks in understanding. Since it was about time for him to head back, he curls up into his tent as he gets ready to log out. However, he suddenly hears whining and opens his eyes to find Rupi close to his face. He asks what was wrong and if it was feeling lonely. Rupi whines sadly again. Sho says that it couldn't be helped and reaches out towards it. Sho smiles at Rupi brightly and calls him over, offering that if they slept next to each other then it wouldn't be so lonely. Rupi's eyes immediately brightened. Rupi immediately dives for him, completely ecstatic, and Sho laughs from being tickled by its fur. Petting its fur, Sho tells it that he'd be back, so Rupi should be a good boy and wait for him. Rupi gives out one last bark of confirmation before Sho closes his eyes and logs out of the game. After returning home, Sho and Mickey sit in front of their dinner. As Mickey picks at her food, she calls out to Sho and shows him her phone. With an accusatory expression on her face, she asks if the player in the uninhabited island video was Sho. Sho pauses for a moment, unimpressed, before he reprimands her and tells her to put her phone down during meals. Mickey yells that she wasn't letting the conversation go so easily until he confessed. Casually continuing to eat, Sho admits that it was really him. Mickey dramatically slumps onto the dining table, saying that she knew it. She calls him a heartless fool for starting at a point where he couldn't play with his cute little sister. Sho asks if she really watched the video, and Mickey says that it was trending, so she did. He asks what she thought about it. Mickey says that not defeating the goblins but tracking them instead was a brilliant idea. She said that she was curious about what was going to happen next. Sho explains that there was no way he could win alone against 20 goblins. Not only that, he says that if there was a settlement, there might be special goblins too. Mickey says that it sounded like there could be extermination quests for those. Sho thinks he saw Belle doing an extermination stream. He wonders how to go about defeating them, and Mickey calls for his attention. Mickey smiles slyly and says that she had an idea. She tells him to lend her his ear so she could whisper her idea, and Sho laughs that no one was listening to them anyway. As Mickey tells him her plan, Sho thinks to himself that although she was noisy and cheeky, Mickey was pretty smart when it came down to things like this. She suddenly asks if he was even listening, and Sho reassures her that he was before reminding her that her food was getting cold. Back in the uninhabited island, a game screen pops up as Mion logs into the game. She greets him a good evening, but suddenly stops short. Mion comments that he was quite fired up seeing Sho sitting on the forest floors with Rupi, tying vines and rocks together. Sho and Rupi happily greet her back. Mion asks if he was building traps, and Sho says that he was, using carefully selected sturdy vines. Now that Mion is there, he stands up from the forest floor. With a determined expression on his face, he calls Rupi over so they could exterminate some goblins. Rupi lets out an excited bark in response. Waiting patiently in the uninhabited island, Belle announces that they were 5 minutes away from going live. Even though it was a sudden stream, they already had over 3,000 people waiting for the premiere. From 1 minute left and counting down, Mion lets in a nervous gulp as the last 10 seconds are counted. When Belle announces that they were live, Mion immediately wishes everyone a good evening. She introduces herself as Mion, the game mystery hunter, and thanks everyone for joining her. Watching the stream intro from his own screen in-game, Sho remembers how Mion had contacted Yada about them going on a goblin extermination quest. Yada immediately suggested streaming the entire process live. As the stream went on, Sho noticed that Mion looked rather nervous. Yada comments that so far, all the comments have all been positive. She tells Mion to pick out some interesting comments. Mion turns to the chat box. One of them was a comment from Seizuter asking how Mion was able to find Sho's video. She admits that it was purely by chance. When the game opened, she was watching various live streams, but Sho's screen looked different from everyone else's, so it really caught her attention. Sho is pleased to know that that was the reason she commented on his first video. Another commenter asks if there were any other live streams to watch, and Mion recommends the Witch Belle's Mansion, saying that she was a huge fan. Reading the comments, Mion guessed that a lot of the audience knew about Witch Belle too. Suddenly, she announces that she had a wonderful surprise for everyone that day. With a flourish of her arm, she shows the girl beside her to the audience, introducing her as a special guest that had joined them. Witch Belle strikes a cute pose as she announces that the commentary stream was about to begin. The comments start flooding in at her sudden arrival. She congratulates Mion on her first stream. She adds that she was looking forward to working with her today, and Mion happily thanks her. Belle tells their viewers that she was there to support Mion since she was new to streaming. She comments that it seemed to be quite lively already, but they had yet to switch to the main focus, which was the uninhabited island. With that, they switched the screen. Mion and Belle greet Sho and Rupi, who return the greetings with their own. Mion asks what kind of gameplay he had planned for the day. Sho tells them that he was planning on clearing out a group of goblins deep in the eastern forest. Belle asks if he was going to do it on his own. Sho confirms that he's already made various preparations for it, and Rupi barks in agreement. He urges both of them to get going straight away. Belle asks them not to push themselves too hard, and Sho reassures her that he would run if things got dangerous. Eventually, they arrive in the goblin settlement. Sho peeks out from a bunch of bushes. From what he could see, there were 3 lookouts and 1 in the center. The rest of the goblins were probably in the back of the cave. Sho turns on his presence concealment skill. With his current skill activated, the goblins shouldn't even hear any notice. He picks up a nearby rock. He throws it as hard as he could at one of the goblins, taking out the first one as it's hit on the face. Sho pumps his fist in victory. which Bell and Mion commend him for his excellent throwing, saying that it was the result of training with Rupi. After that, Sho deactivates the presence concealment skill. Immediately, the goblins take notice of him and the fallen goblin. Deliberately letting the others notice and having them rush towards him was part of Sho's plan. When they're close enough, he counterattacks by throwing more rocks at them. Sho calls out to Rupi as a figure comes out of the cave. Sho and Rupi run, but he warns Rupi to slow down a bit. Sho turns around to check their pursuers. They had managed to lure out the ones from the cave too. Bell and Mion provide commentary saying that Sho was deliberately running at a pace the goblins could keep up with and wondering what he would do next. They knew for now that Sho would want to disperse their forces. Suddenly, Sho picks up Rupi, much to the puppy's surprise. Next, Sho activates his presence concealment skill and ducks behind a large boulder. The goblins pause, unable to find him. Sho laughs at the foolish goblins, unable to find them even when they were so close by, and Rupi agrees. Suddenly, the goblins are alerted when they hear the bushes behind them begin to rustle. The goblins scream in fear as multiple lizard-like creatures spring out from the bushes and right into their group. Sho laughs mischievously as he watches the goblins be completely fooled by his trap, all of them now scrambling as the Sauron lizards attack them. Bell and Mion now understand that Sho had set up a Sauron lizard trap. Thanks to that, the goblins had all scattered. Mion asks Bell what she would do after that situation if it was her. Bell says that she would want to take out the ones heading back to the plaza in one go since it would be troublesome if they returned to the cave. Sho lowers Rupi back to the ground as he stands up and peeks around the boulder. He agreed with Witch Bell's strategy, thinking that the goblins going back to the cave would be the biggest hassle. But he's already set up his next move. He watches as the goblins all walk back to the direction of the cave. Just as they step on a pile of leaves, a sturdy vine wrapped around the trunk of a tree is pulled tight, and Sho makes his move. Using the sharp edge of a rock, he cuts at the outstretched vine. The goblins are surprised when the ground beneath them starts to elevate. Before they could even react, the goblins are sent flying into the air, disappearing into the distance. Sho yells, ecstatic with his victory. He had set up a trap by attaching Flex Sasa bamboo to trees. When the goblins stepped on it, cutting the connected vines launches them with the recoil. Back to Mion and Witchbell, Mion is in awe at the incredible power it took to fling the goblins. Witchbell also praises him for his amazing strategy. If he couldn't win by brute force, then he could win with his traps. She finally understood why he was so confident. Sho laughs bashfully, saying that he put a lot of thought into it, internally adding that most of the thinking was done by Mickey. Sho suddenly gets a notification that his trap disarming skill has increased. Sho is pleased with how things were going smoothly. Suddenly, Rupi lets out a loud bark and Sho turns around. Sho is met by the sight of fireballs aimed right at them. He's only frozen in shock for a moment before he dives straight for Rupi. He envelops the puppy in his arms as the fireballs rain down around them. He grits his teeth from the heat of an attack hitting him. Bell and Mion call out to him in worry. Mion asks Bell if Sho's character was going to die, and Bell reassures her that it was going to be okay since he still had 1 health point left, and there weren't any follow-up attacks. Sho slowly gets up and asks a teary-eyed Rupi if it was hurt. Wondering where the attack came from, Sho turns back to the cave entrance. Coming out of the cave was a goblin leader, a large goblin that led a group of goblins and swept away its surroundings with tremendous strength. Behind it was a goblin magician, a goblin skilled in various magic spells and specializing in long-range combat. Sho stares in horror at the monsters, clutching Rupi close to his chest. The goblin leader was bigger than the rest. The leader lunges for them and swings its gigantic club at them. Its weapon crashes to the ground just a distance away from where Sho lies on the ground. Seeing the situation getting worse, he quickly turns to Rupi and tells it that they needed to retreat. But just as he does so, the goblin magician laughs as it summons more fireballs. Sho and Rupi jump out of the way, trying to shield themselves from the attacks coming their way. They didn't even have time to rest. Sho suddenly hears growling, and he looks down to check if Rupi was okay. To his surprise, he sees Rupi bound for the monsters. Sho yells after it, saying that it was impossible and that it can't do it alone. However, Sho pauses for a moment. The enemy's attention was still on Rupi. Taking out his dagger, he saw his chance. He throws it with his skill, sure that they would be able to do it. The dagger is buried deep into the back of the goblin leader's neck. It slowly reaches for the weapon in confusion before the pain sinks in. The goblin magician yells in horror as the goblin leader's body falls over it. Witchbell and Mion are amazed that he was able to defeat it, but they comment that the way the leader fell was strange. They ask Sho what exactly happened. A game screen notifies them that the goblin leader was paralyzed for about 4 minutes until recovery. Sho celebrates that his plan had worked. He was glad he coated the dagger with Sauron lizard venom beforehand. Rupi happily runs up to him. Sho raises Rupi into his arms, ecstatic that it was able to do it, much to the puppy's delight. Going back to the goblin leader's body, Sho takes the dagger and stabs at them again to finish them off. With that, they had achieved complete victory. A game screen notifies them that Sho had cleared out the goblin settlement. A safe zone had been added. A safe zone was a safe area where enemy threats couldn't reach. Bell and Mion celebrate his victory with him. Sho thinks that although it said that a safe zone was added, he wonders what was deep inside the cave. He wanted to explore it later. He snapped out of his daze when he hears Mion and Bell calling out for his name. He turns to the game screen in a rush. They ask if he could finally hear them, glad that he was able to respond because they thought the connection might have been cut. Again, they praise him for his good work. He laughs bashfully and thanks them, but internally he forgot for a moment that they were still streaming. Bell and Mion praise him for being incredible and his perfect trap usage. Mion's eyes sparkled to see that their concurrent viewers had increased to 10,000. The comments come pouring in saying that his knife throw was awesome and calling him a real hunter. Mion says that there were a lot of questions in the comments and she asks if it was okay for her to read them out. Sho agreed as long as he could answer them. However, his eyes drift over to the goblin leader's body in the corner. Sho asks Mion if they could change locations, implying that the mood there wasn't quite great. Mion agrees, adding that she would summarize the comments as concisely as possible. Sho points over to a group of flat rocks and he calls Rupi over. Sho sits down cross-legged with Rupi on his lap. Mion asks Bell to ask the questions while Sho pets Rupi, the puppy very satisfied. Bell says that they wanted to know how he defeated the goblin leader, and so on that day there were more than 10 times the questions he imagined. The question and answer session lasted until 10 p.m., which was the very limit of streaming time for minors. Unbeknownst to Sho and the rest, deep within the goblin cave lay an engraved door. The next day at school, Nut leans over Sho's table. Excited, he says that yesterday's stream was amazing and a huge success. Sho asks if he watched the stream and Nut says that of course he did. Nut says that everyone in the Empire was watching the stream too. Sho is in disbelief that he seemed like he was getting more attention than he expected. The class representative suddenly cuts in, saying that it was obviously because no one knows anything about the uninhabited island. The boys ask her if she knew about IRO too. Slightly blushing, she hesitantly admits that she did and that she watched the stream. The game had looked interesting, so she looked into it. Nut suddenly leans over to Mion and in a whisper asks whether she was the one doing the commentary with Witchbell. Before Mion can say anything, the class rep asks her in a frenzy if it was true, and if Sho had threatened her. Kind of funny that she's almost implying that Sho held her at gunpoint or something just to commentate on a stream about farming. Sho cuts her off, saying that that wasn't the case at all. Sho explains that they were doing it together as part of their club activities. Sho adds for her not to scare Mion so much. The class rep apologizes, saying that she just got worried. Mion smiles softly, her cheeks slightly red as she thanks everyone for their concern. Mion tells them that she was glad that both Nut and the class rep enjoyed the stream. She admits that at first she was nervous about live streaming. Nut says that she seemed to be talking pretty well and the class rep backs him up by saying that she was amazing considering how many viewers there were. Suddenly noticing Sho, the class rep asks why Sho looks so proud. We love a supportive friend/streaming buddy in this chat. Nut suddenly lets out a heavy sigh, saying that she was jealous. He explains that in the Empire, the only thing the NPCs or the non-playable characters talked about were ominous things, particularly something about civil unrest. Nut's voice sounds annoyed. The class representative is confused, saying that that kind of thing would be fun. Nut is glad that the class rep understood what he wanted to say. Nudging the class rep with his elbow, Nut asks why she doesn't start playing the game too. She defends herself, saying that she wasn't used to playing with strangers. Nut continues to push her, saying that she could just play in the same area as him. He would even help her with character creation. Watching them, Sho thinks that the both of them got along rather well. The class rep asks whether the characters could use bows or magic, and Nut reassures her that she could. He adds that players could even choose races now, and that he thinks the elf race would be perfect for her. The class rep is surprised by his words. Nut, with an oblivious grin, says that elves were usually beautiful with smaller chests. I want to know his thought process that made him think that was a good thing to say. The class representative's expression goes stone cold, and not long after, the sound of a slap echoes through the class. After school, Sho slips the HMD back over his head, and not before long, his character appears by the goblin cave. In a little while, Mion enters the stream. Sho starts listing out his plans for the day, saying that since they spent a lot of time answering questions last time, he suggests that maybe they should proceed further into the cave they couldn't reach before. In front of Sho and Rupi was the looming entrance of the goblin cave. Mion asks him if he wasn't going to check the loot he got from last time. Sho freezes, saying that he completely forgot before opening his bag. Inside was a small magic stone, a tiny magic stone, a dirty robe that provided +1 in defense, and finally a beginner's spellbook. Sho was excited at the thought that he could use some magic. He opens the book to find spells like Fireball, Stone Bullet, and others mostly used for combat. Some other spells were Earth Wall and Stone Wall that he might also be able to use in battle. With glittering eyes, he calls Rupi over and they head over to the cave. Walking deeper in, Mion asks Sho if it was really okay for them to burn the robe. Sho reassures her that it was fine and that using it as a torch would be more worthwhile. He looks around the cave and says that it didn't seem like there were any enemies yet. He's suddenly alert when they come to a wide space. He wonders if it was a safe zone. Mion calls out to him saying that there was a door in the back left of the cave. The game notifies Sho that it was an ancient magic door, a door sealed by ancient magic. Noticing its intricate design, Mion observes that the door doesn't seem to fit the cave. Mion asks Sho what ancient magic was, and Sho says that when he looks it up, he could only find elemental magic, spirit magic, and holy magic. Raising his hand, he says that they wouldn't know unless they tried to open it. Just as he tries to push it open, a game screen appears before him, saying that access was confirmed for the one who has received the blessing. It asks him to confirm if he wanted to unlock the door, and hesitantly, Sho says yes. Immediately the door swings open. Descending a flight of stairs, Sho enters a wide room and the game announces that he had discovered ancient ruins. Sho's eyes sparkle as he realizes that the new area that was open to him was a workshop. It had everything needed: a hearth, a furnace, and even a workbench. Kneeling to check the equipment, Sho was quite happy about the furnace. If they had some ore on hand, they could work with metal. Mion suggests that they appraise everything first. Sho agrees with her, adding that he should get the smithing and mining skills as well. The game notifies Sho that the ancient magic furnace was used in ancient times. It maintains high temperatures by infusing mana points instead of using firewood. The smithing skill transforms ore into ingots. Sho is amazed to hear that it ran by consuming mana points. He heard that someone would need money to use production facilities in town, or so he saw in one of Witchbell's streams. Mion suggests that the specs must have been changed to accommodate the uninhabited island. Sho agrees, but he adds that he didn't think it was that special a feature, which is really funny to say when your whole island sounds like a cheat code. Mion says that in the uninhabited island, an adventurer could use it as much as they wanted since mana points recovered automatically when logging out to sleep. Meanwhile on the mainland, an adventurer would need recovery items. Sho agrees with Mion, however suddenly he notices Rupi acting odd. He follows Rupi as it seems to motion to something next to the hearth. There was a box with certain handheld tools inside. Sho finds scissors, a hammer, and a chisel among them. They've got most of what they needed already. However, Sho noticed that the tools didn't look new. He stands back up and looks all over the cave, now sure that it was a smithing workshop. Turning to a corner of the cave, he finds a door and says that he thinks it should connect to the corridor they were in earlier. Mion agrees, saying that it should be about where the corridor turned left. Sho heads over to the door, and when prompted by the game to open it again, he confirms it. The door swings open and looking around, Sho is sure that it really was a continuation of the corridor. The cave corridor stretches further inside and Sho frowns. He wonders how far the path went and if there might be monsters. It was a bit scary. However, Rupi suddenly barks happily, much to Sho's surprise, and Rupi takes the lead of their exploring. Sho thought that having Rupi around was rather reassuring. As they keep walking, Sho comments that they were in quite the long path. Rupi barks and turns to Sho as they find a flight of stairs. Following them, he comes across another large door. Mion observes that there was no handle on the door. Sho agrees, coming to the conclusion that the door opened from the other side. They needed to find some kind of trigger. Deciding to deal with that problem later, they decide to go down the right side. Reaching the last step of the stairs, Sho is suddenly surrounded by so much light seemingly coming from the very walls. He looks around in awe. Both he and Mion express their amazement at the beautiful sight. Looking down at their glowing surroundings, Sho wonders if it was all moss. He kneels down and takes some of them into his hand to examine. According to the game, it was light moss, essentially moss that absorbs mana points and causes them to glow. Sho is confused that that was all there was to them. He wonders if it had any relation to cooking or medicine preparation. I get the medicine prep possibility, but I think glowing food is still a little too advanced for their world. Sho decides that since the moss was so pretty, he wanted to transplant it into their new base. Mion agrees, saying that it was a good idea. Sho wonders what skill he would need to do just that, thinking it might have something to do with agriculture. Mion suggests gardening and Sho agrees. He skipped the easiest one and immediately went for agriculture. Rupi suddenly barks to catch Sho's attention and Sho turns around. Rupi smiles triumphantly as it points to a pile of rocks. The game notifies Sho that the rocks were actually ore. Their discovery makes Sho exclaim. If they could extract it, they should be able to process it in the workshop they just found. However, he remembers that they didn't have the proper mining tools. He takes out what he currently had, a rusty knife and an old hammer he picked up a while back. Sho picks up Rupi, much to the puppy's confusion, as he tells it that it was going to be dangerous. He orders it to stay back and tells it that he would do his best. Using his tools, Sho makes quick work of the material until finally he gets what he wants. Eyes sparkling in victory, Sho held iron ore in his hands. It was a stone that served as the raw material for iron. Using the smithing skill can let it be processed into iron products after being made into ingots in a furnace. Mion is amazed by his successful task. Sho expresses that it was quite difficult harvesting ore when all he had was a knife and a hammer, kinda more impressed that he was able to do it anyway. Mion asks him if he needs a pickaxe. Sho agrees with the need for a pickaxe, adding that they needed to move their base to the cave. As Rupi played with the spare ore lying around, Sho laughs and says that he liked the cave. Still, he thinks that although there shouldn't be anyone on the uninhabited island but him, there were traces of someone being there. Since the game was just released, there shouldn't be any existing players before him. He decides to investigate other areas next time. Back in the computer club room, Sho stretches his body as relief from his exhaustion. They made quite the progress that day. Mion praises him for his good work. Suddenly, the clubroom door slid open, much to Sho and Mion's surprise. It was Belle, and Sho asks her where she's been. Belle happily informs them that she was submitting a proposal. Sho is confused, but Belle explains that it also concerned both him and Mion as part of their club activities from then on. With an excited look on her face, she announces that they were going to form a guild. Sho and Mion stare at her in shock. Their shock is understandable. Sho wanted to play solo, that's why he was on an empty island, and Mion wasn't really into talking to other people.